Hi, I'm Carolyn,
And I'm Carol,
and I teach high school theater.
and I teach high school English. And when we're not teaching and putting on our own shows, we often go out to lots of shows.
Yes, and this week we saw Disaster the Musical at the Kelsey Theater, directed by Pete Labriola, who is the founder of Pierrot Productions. And
I loved it.
I
I loved it.
well, I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of Farrah Fawcetted my hair today because the show is based on all those 1970s
Yes.
disaster movies.
Correct. So, like the Poseidon Adventure,
Towering Inferno,
Earthquake,
Airport, The Swarm,
and Jaws. They do
Jaws,
yeah, like all of those.
Ben.
Ben.
You know, they
Yeah.
had little portions of all those shows.
Right, and it has all the songs that you can sing to.
Right.
Like all of those
Right, so-
songs we grew up.
It's a jukebox musical in terms of the, using the 1970s kind of disco
Yeah.
music.
Well, not just disco, because
No,
there
you're
was
right.
Dan Fogelberg was in there. Queen
Don't
was
Cry
in
Out
it,
Loud.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yes.
Right. There was like it was.
Right.
It wasn't just disco. It was a good mix.
Right. It was a great mix of
Captain
music.
and Tennille. When they did
Muskrat Love.
when they did a Captain and Tennille song, that's when I knew it was over.
My aunt bought me the Captain and Tennille Muskrat Love album for me. I must have been in 5th grade or 6th grade. She
Yeah.
probably doesn't know that's what she got me, but it was a great gift. And
Yeah.
I listened to that all the time.
Right.
And so for people like our age,
Right.
this musical, anybody can go see it. But you find yourself, which I did,
Singing.
singing along.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it, because as you know, when we saw Glengarry Glen Ross, that's very cerebral. Like you have to think, you have to pay
Right.
attention. Sometimes I get tired of thinking. Like I think all day, I don't want to think anymore. And I went and I sat there and I sang the songs and I laughed out loud, and I thought, I love the show. I love the show. I thought the actors, did a good job with it. They had, great voices for these songs they were singing. So I loved it.
And I kind of pulled up the reviews of the show. And what's funny is it did not have a very long run on Broadway, but it got great
Right.
reviews.
Yeah.
New York Times loved this show.
Right. Like, the one I read was that the critic said, it was the first time in a long time that he had laughed out loud in the theater. And last night, I was laughing out loud. There's the scene where, after the disaster,
Yes.
some people die
Yes.
in the disaster, and they're going to do a burial at sea.
Yes.
And there is that scene when they are up on the deck,
Right.
and they throw the body over the deck, and they are singing once, twice, three times a lady, and they are throwing 1, 2, 3 body parts. And I know it sounds like, distorted, but it wasn't. That to me was the funniest part in the whole show.
Well, so afterwards I didn't realize there's this older couple and this woman,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
whose real name is Shirley Winters.
Right.
And if you know anything about 1970s disaster
Correct.
movies, Shelley Winters, who my father loves, Shelley Winters did all
those.
these disaster
Well, she was in
movies.
Poseidon Adventure.
And I think she was in Towering Inferno. Or Airport. They were all in those
Yeah.
kind of movies.
Yeah.
So she was fantastic.
Well,
Gina Magliacci, I think.
and her husband in the show, so it was Cheryl and Maury.
Yes. They
And-
were a New York couple.
Right, and he's just retired. And what you learn in the show is that she has this, deadly disease. She's dying and she won't tell him. The way they handle the death is a little, to me, it was funny. Some people might
Right.
take offense to it, but I thought it was very funny because she starts saying all these inappropriate things and her hips gyrate, and she was great. She was great.
She was great.
But what I liked about it was the two of them together were really good, and you really cared about this older couple. Like when she's at the end, when they're singing You're Still the One, right? They start off singing You're Still the One, and then at the end when she's dying, they kind of tone it down and sing, and it's we recently had our prom, and we get these kids who are all caught up in the drama of the prom. This one's going, now he's not going, he loves me, he doesn't love me. But what I say to the kids all the time is, you know, because I'm old, you don't know love. Like, and when I see my parents or your parents, right? Like, when you've gone through all of that life, that's really love. And you felt that with Maury and Cheryl, even in all of the comedy.
They were fantastic. There were a few moments that really I loved. I loved the nun. So there's always a nun in these kind of movies somewhere, or a priest, you know. And so she is you know, she's a gambler. And
well, she sings this song, and again, I was laughing out loud because she is singing
torn between two lovers.
Sister Mary. So she's outside when the premise is they're opening this casino in New York, but they can't open it in New York because you can't have gambling. So they're opening it on the river tied to the dock, on the Hudson River tied to the dock. And an earthquake comes, and so an earthquake comes, and then the ship blows up, and then it capsizes, and there's an explosion, and then the rats come, and so it's a little bit of all of these movies put together.
And the piranhas. There was a piranha movie.
Yes,
and
there was. It was called Piranha.
That's right.
It was called Piranha.
Yeah.
That was later, though.
It doesn't matter. Well, the swarm was the bees.
Right, but the Piranha movie was, because I think Bill Paxton was in that Piranha movie.
Oh, that would have been a good one.
There's a reason I would know
that.
I'm
going to go watch Poseidon Adventure again this weekend.
Well, I probably will too.
Okay.
But so anyway, so the nun is outside trying to raise money for the orphanage, because she's against gambling, right? Because she's a good nun. And Cheryl and Maury say, you know, come in, have a good time. And Shirley buys her a ticket to come in, and the nun comes in. And what you find out once the nun gets in there is that she is she's a gambling addict.
Right.
And so she recognizes this super duper slot machine that's there.
Right.
And she's given a quarter, or finds a quarter. And she's singing this song, should she put the quarter in the slot machine or should she not? And she sings Torn Between Two Lovers. I was crying. I was laughing so hard I could not.
So the actress Haley Schmalbach she has
a great voice too.
She has a great voice. She was fantastic in every moment that she was on the stage.
Yeah.
She was just a lot of fun to watch.
And there's that scene where when she's singing Torn Between Two Lovers, she rips off her habit, and she's got this disco dress underneath it. It was really funny to me.
And I do want to say the costumes were excellent, especially Jackie's costume.
Yeah.
She's like the lounge singer, which I have to say. So this is something I'm not very proud of, but some of my friends know. I was in love with the Bay City Rollers.
Me too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, me too.
You are not a Bay City Roller
person.
person.
Because I'll tell you the first time I saw them.
Where?
Well, on Michael Douglas.
That's right.
Okay, so my grandmother every day at 5 o'clock
watch Michael Douglas.
Would watch Michael Douglas, and you weren't allowed to talk.
You don't strike me as a Bay City Roller.
I love them. You were not allowed to talk when Michael Douglas was on, and the first time I saw the Bay City Rollers, they were on the Michael Douglas show, and I was screaming like all the other kids were screaming.
I love the Bay City Rollers.
I did too. So when she's doing that Saturday night,
right? You knew that was coming.
You knew it was coming.
SATUR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because her son needed to know how to spell Saturday. And that's what she started singing. And you could predict what songs were coming.
But that was okay.
That was the fun part of it.
Like for me, those are songs that, you know, I was very young as you were. We were actually young.
Well, I was older than you.
But you were still young. We were in elementary school and middle school and high school. You were probably, well, anyway, we should probably share our ages on air. But anyway, I just remember that kind of music and those songs, listening on. I had one of those radios that was like, you twisted it. Do you remember those?
No.
Like a transistor. No. It was in a funny shape, and I would listen to it. Anyway,
it was Casey Kasem's Top 40.
Yes, it was.
I think Sunday morning you would get up and you'd turn on the radio and you'd listen to Casey Kasem.
Right.
And those were all the songs that were on Casey Kasem.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to just say, the guy who played Chad, Jim Petro, first of all, he had a fabulous voice. I don't know, and I don't want to offend him if he's out there, but his hair was super 70s, and I thought it was pretty cool looking.
Well, and he had the right voice
yes.
to sing these songs.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, I don't know if he tailored his voice, if he has, you know, like that Broadway show voice. He had the perfect voice for these songs that he was singing last night.
He was. I enjoyed him very much as Chad.
Yeah.
We do need to talk about the young man who played Ben, and I'm trying to remember who he was. Nicholas Benedetti.
Yeah.
Nicholas Benedetti. He played Ben and Lisa. I don't know how old he was.
He's probably 11 or 12.
He was adorable, but he did such a nice job.
Right.
I mean, that's a major part in this musical for a kid his age.
And what I really liked was he sang low when he was Ben.
Yes, he
and he
did.
sang high when he was Lisa.
Right.
Right. And there's a couple of times that he sings duets with the reporter.
Right. Marianne.
And one with his mom, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
And the one, and I, you know, because this is probably one of my all-time favorite, you know, sometimes I have the kids write at school, like, what is the anthem of their youth, right? Just to kind of get them to write. And I would probably say this has been the anthem of my youth and my middle age, is when they were doing I Am Woman.
Oh, yeah,
right?
that was great.
And he played Lisa. And he is singing, you know,
I Am Woman.
I Am Woman.
Hear me roar.
The reporter character is trying to get her to understand that you don't, you know, she says, well, what, did anyone ever ask you what you want to be? What do you want to be? And she says, well, you know, I want to be married. And it's like, no, you don't have to be. And she's sort of teaching that. I thought that was really great. I thought they sounded good together.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it was serious when it needed to be. I thought, and then he did the duet with his mom, Jackie, where they are doing When Will I Be Loved, which is the great, like, you know, Linda Ronstadt. And they did a really good job. And he was flipping back and forth.
Right, in between characters,
you know, right there.
Which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was good. He did a really, really good job.
I think as an ensemble, because this is one of those musicals that's a pretty small ensemble, they really worked nicely together. You could sort of sense that they all liked each other and were getting along because it's a parody. So it's a parody written by Scott Radetzky and Jack Plotnick. I'm sorry, Jack Plotnick. So, and from what I understand, the director had been in touch with one of the writers, and they're kind of having this. He's producing it in Connecticut. They're producing it here, which is kind of fun.
Right.
That is, you know, two kind of dueling shows. But it's a fun production and the costumes, you know, I just, it's a fun time, you know.
Well, it was, and you walked out of there. I laughed, I was singing, and I walked out of there, and I felt.
Well, you know what I thought about was when I after I left the show, what I thought about was, like, okay, these disaster movies are so campy.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I was in class today, I always bring up what we see.
Right.
And I was talking to my students about it, and they some of them knew this musical because they can watch the musicals on YouTube, and they like this musical. And I said to them, but they didn't understand these movies. But it's no different than what my sons like to watch, like Sharknado.
Correct. Yeah.
That Sharknado is very much the parody in the same way as this musical is, except putting them all together into the musical.
And I thought, you know, you were not supposed to come out of there with some life-changing message.
No,
right?
No.
Like, and if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be disappointed.
It's a parody. It's fun.
It's fun.
Just a fun, you know.
And the jokes are bad.
Yes,
and that's what makes them funny. And it's sometimes off color, and you know, some people may say it's inappropriate. I don't find it inappropriate, but you know, but you just laughed and sang, and that's all it is, and that was like what I needed.
But I think that also with the I was just thinking about the whole, you know, all these kind of stories coming together from all these different movies and plot lines. Like, even if you don't have that kind of, if you don't have the history with the movies, you'll still be entertained by how ridiculous it is. Well, you know, the tap number when they're tapping which I thought
with Morse code.
Right.
Yeah.
They're tapping Morse code because, and I was remembering, like, I haven't thought about these movies in a long time. Poseidon Adventure, the ship flips upside down.
Yeah.
And I realized that that's what they were kind of like,
Yeah.
the idea that, oh, you know, you put an escape hatch in the floor, but now we can escape because it's
Right.
on the ceiling.
Right.
Like, it's just
Right.
silliness.
And I remember in the Poseidon Adventure, there's that scene where Shelley Winters, her character, has to swim up this
Yes.
thing, right? And they were swimming, and they did a really nice job last night of using light to sort of make it look like the water.
And at one point he comes swimming and he's on a flat, like almost like a skateboard kind of thing.
Yeah, and
I thought that was really clever,
Right.
as a way to have him come across the stage and swim. And you know, but
and the water rises. You see
Right.
the water rise. Yeah.
and the thing is, you don't need it to be realistic because you know this is all camp
Right.
and it's just kind of fun, and that's what you enjoy about this production.
And I found myself sort of waiting for the song, like
Yes.
sort of playing a game with myself in my head, like trying to guess the song that was coming. And,
Right.
and sometimes I got them right. Like there's the one time where Jackie is choosing between Tony, the casino owner,
Yes.
or the professor.
who I liked Tony
I
a
did
lot.
too.
He was really good. I'm trying to remember who he was. His name's Joe Zendany of I hope I didn't butcher his name, but he was really good.
Right. So he says to her, well, you'll never survive without me. And
Right.
then she burst into, I will survive. Right. So I was like, oh, I got that one right. And then there was another time he did something, and I can't remember what it was, but he was like supposed to not cry.
Right.
And he starts,
Singing.
he says, my father told me never cry. And he starts singing, don't
cry
cry
out
out loud.
loud.
And so you get to where, and the little boy's name is Ben. So of course at some point they had to sing
I've
Ben.
been singing Ben all day.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's voice has been in my head all day because I love that song.
Right.
And then when the one, I think I turned to you because this really made me laugh. So he has to walk across a beam, right,
Yeah.
to rescue Jackie and Ben,
Yeah.
the professor. And so they have this beam on the floor, which was great, right? So you get the idea. And they're playing Nadia's theme.
Yeah.
Nadia Comaneci's theme, that piece of
Right.
music that you always remember is
Right.
Nadia's theme. And
Because he's on the beam.
Right, so there's jokes that some people are going to get that nobody else is going
Right.
to get, but then there's all this stuff going
Right.
on that's really entertaining.
Well, I was often laughing, like, and there's the opening scene where it's blowing up, the kitchen's blowing up, and
Right.
the gas lines are blowing up, and they're touching all this stuff, and they're playing hot stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't laugh, I feel, that's a problem because
pretty
it was
funny.
real. It was very funny.
it's a very,
Yeah.
very funny, fast-paced, entertaining musical. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with that.
Right.
Simple set,
Yeah.
very simple.
But it was fine.
The thing
though.
that the kids in my high school were talking to me about, the kids at West were talking about, my theater kids today, was this is how much they know about everything, which always amazes me, is that they're like, there's so many quick changes in that show. And I'm like, yeah, there really were. And they were literally, running off and changing and coming back, and the ensemble members were becoming all these different characters.
Right. And Ben was changing right on stage.
Right.
Right, from Ben to
To
Lisa
Lisa.
to Lisa to Ben,
Yeah.
like right on stage, and did it did it well.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He is quite.
So I, you said when we were talking about it that you were surprised that I liked it, but I
shouldn't
loved
be
it.
because you like Mamma Mia. And
I love Mamma Mia.
Right, and this is one of those kind of shows,
Right.
like Mamma Mia. Like
Right.
it's just, you sit there and you do find yourself, I was singing along.
Right, and when I saw Summer with the
Right.
Damas, I loved it, and there was all of these 50-year-old women reliving our club
But
days
you don't
in the
have
80s.
to be a 50-year-old woman to go enjoy
No,
this
you
show.
do not.
No.
And I think anyone, because obviously young people like it, and
Yeah.
I would think that my mother would enjoy it, and
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
So you should probably get out this weekend
and go see it.
and go see it at the Kelsey Theater, Disaster the Musical.
Yeah.
Fantastic production.
Yeah, I would probably, and I don't go see things twice,
Right.
because
You would go see it again.
I might go see this again just to sing the songs.
I might go with you.
Okay, all right.
I did.
right.
It's some of my favorite music.
It's great music.
Because disco music's so great.
But
so.
it wasn't all disco, though.
I know
Don't
it
keep
was.
calling it all disco.
Yeah, and you know what? Was there a Carpenter's song? Because that's like
I don't
my
remember that.
little bit of a geeky thing.
I don't remember the
Melissa
Carpenters.
Manchester, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some good songs.
Really?
See the show, buy the soundtrack.
There you go.
Can I eat my cake now?
Yes, you can.
All right, but before we
Yes.
eat the cake, we have to do something. So,
Oh.
because your birthday is Sunday.
Yes, it is.
All right, so I just want to say happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll go see a show.
Yeah, we will. So until the next time, break a leg. Okay, you ready to eat our cake?
I'm ready to eat cake.
Okay, this is. Ooh.